honorable speakers and the presiding officers, we are 10 minutes behind schedule because we agreed to assemble here again at 11:30. The resolution committee has accomplished its task, and without further ado, I wish to request the Right Honorable Lucas Sinimbo Muha, Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, the National Assembly of Namibia, to come forward and present the resolutions before this very august assembly. The Right Honorable Speaker, you have the floor. Yeah, I think here is good.
The House is called to order. Honorable Speakers and the presiding officers in your respective countries, distinguished delegates, I greet you all. It was this conference that has democratically elected Botswana and Namibia to serve in the Committee of Resolutions. It is our distinguished honor to present the resolutions as resolved by the 17th Conference of the Commonwealth Speakers and Presiding Officers of CPA, Africa region, here in Kigali, Rwanda. The Conference of the Speakers and Presiding Officers, briefly referred to as Cspoc, African region, comprising of presiding officers from 19 national parliaments, held at Kigali, Rwanda, from 21st to the 28th November this year. Having examined the theme, African Parliaments in the 21st century, acknowledged that weak regulatory system have resulted in the circulations and the substandard of the falsified medical products in many African states, thereby posing a major risk to public health and public care delivery system. The 17th Conference also acknowledged that African governments have not invested enough resources in local research and productions of vaccine, and that developed countries continue to hoard this essential medicine and vaccines. The conference noted the place of legislature in Africa as driving force in the implementations of the African Continental Free Trade Area by passing the enabling legislations as well as enacting legal framework for speedy economic integration. It also noted that the budgetary allocations by African government towards the attainment of a sustainable development, as well as African Agenda 2023, are insufficient. The conference further observed that the radical dissent in the legislature is often driven by partisanship, higher-handedness, lack of consultations, and strategic communications on the part of presiding officers. The 17th Conference of Speakers and Presiding Officer further observed that some members of Parliament do not have required capability to perform their legislative function. Cspoc has also taken cognizance of the fact that oppositions or minority party have a key role to play in holding the government to account and in providing appropriate policy for public consideration in an effort to enhance accountability. It also took cognizance of the fact that in some parliaments there is sometimes interference in the governance process of parliament, especially from the ruling political party and the executive branch of government. The conference concerned that in some parliament, the ministries, departments, and agencies of government often refuse to submit themselves to the parliamentary audit and scrutiny, which in the end fails the noble task of transparency and trust. The 17th conference also concerned that some parliaments lack the resources and political will to monitor and evaluate the executive branch of government. It is also convinced, and that is the conference, it is also convinced that the privilege, immunity, and power of the legislature are absolutely necessary in the effective discharge of its functions. It is also convinced that historically, arbitrary arrest and prosecutions have often served as an excuse for oppressive regime and government to oppress critical parliamentarians and remove them from circulations. The conference accordingly resolved. Number one, on special resolutions. To encourage African parliaments to ratify the treaty for the establishment of the African Medicines Agency to enhance the capacity of the countries to regulate medical products. The conference further resolved to encourage African government to invest in the local research and products of vaccine on the African continents to avert the challenge of vaccine nationalism and inequity in the distribution of the vaccine, a situation that we have observed during the advent of COVID-19. The conference further advised legislature in Africa to be the driving force in the implementation of African Continental Free Trade Area by passing the enabling legislations. It further advised African parliamentarians to continue sharing knowledge, continue sharing skills and resources with one another, hereby leveraging on the experiences and best practice of others. The 17th Conference of Speakers and Presiding Officers urge African parliamentarians to make budgetary allocations towards the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDG, and African Union Agenda 2023 target. Maybe before I continue, I don't hear you supporting me as I am reading these resolutions. Thank you so much. That is a sign of saying that the conference that have taken these resolutions is this conference that I'm reporting to. In the area of the presiding officers, in a changing society, strategy for flow management of radical dissents and minority government. The conference encouraged presiding officers to be inclusive, impartial, and consultative in managing dissenting views and opposition parties. The conference further encouraged presiding officers to ensure that mechanisms are in place to preserve the right of the oppositions and other political groups to allow all members to exercise their mandate freely and without being subjected to undue influences and pressure, as sometimes observed in some parliaments. The conference urged African parliaments to place emphasis on the capacity buildings of all members through post-election seminar, refresher courses, as well as short and long-term training programs. The 17th Conference of Speakers and Presiding Officers further urge presiding officers to preserve the independence of the legislature from the interference of political parties and the executive branch of government. It further advised the presiding officer to accommodate minority groups and make provisions in the standing rules and order for minority reports. The conference further advised that the chairpersonship of standing committees should reflect numerical strength of each party in the House, and that committees such as public account and public petitions are headed by minority groups in line with international best practices. Number 3, on the retooling parliaments for effective and efficient oversight. The 17th Conference of Speakers and Presiding Officers, African region, urge African Parliament to develop framework for citizen participation and involvement in project monitoring and evaluation. It also urged African parliaments to pass legislations that compel the government to submit to legislative scrutiny and oversight. The conference further encouraged African parliaments to pass an e-procurement and e-taxation laws in order to promote transparency and efficiency in managing of scarce resources. It also encouraged African parliaments to use such tools as community scorecards to evaluate their performance. We can learn that from other national parliaments that have already introduced this. The conference requests African parliaments to engage support staff and hire consultants and experts where necessary to bridge the gap of inadequate capacity to undertake effective and efficient oversight. On the subtopics of the relevance of parliamentary immunity, power, and privilege, the conference urged African parliamentarians to defend their privilege, power, and immunity in order to maintain the independence and autonomy of the legislative branch of government. Honorable members, speakers, and presiding officers of this conference, and of course, the distinguished invited guests and accompanying staff, it is Comrade Botswana, can you come closer here? Please give him a round of applause as he is coming. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
It is our distinguished honor and privilege, Botswana and Namibia, as entrusted upon by this conference to compile the resolution, now to submit these resolutions to the conference for adoption. We thank you. I now facilitate the process where an adoption is observed. I see a hand from Cape Town.
Speaker, Western Cape Provincial Parliament in South Africa, of course, with the seat being the beautiful Cape Town. Thank you, Honorable Presiding Officer. I just want to appreciate the hard work that has been done and equally indicate that most of the stuff that has been discussed, deliberated upon, has been encapsulated in good spirit there. I just want to appraise the conference of the area that could be dangerous for the conference. Perhaps I should intimate that the resolutions that are attributed to the conference itself, which were in part, in fact, wholly, the speech by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Rwanda, that was not part of our deliberations. Respectfully, all of those issues are very important, but the spirit in which it is captured should reflect the correct approach that it took. Perhaps I must put it differently and say that if this conference resolves to adopt the proposition by the head of state, we should do that, but not necessarily to attribute that as part of the deliberations of the conference, because it is incorrect and procedurally flawed. Then the second part, so I'm saying, Chair, from where I'm seated, I move that we frame it so that the phraseology is important of that part of the resolution, that we table that as part of the, that it was tabled to the conference and the conference resolved to adopt what has been proposed by the head of state, and that we align ourselves and identify with the issues raised. That's one. Then on C, resolution C5, if you could put the resolutions there and remove my face, please. I want to point to the specific section that just is issues of wording, really. It's nothing significant. It's just that it has a risk of losing what we may want to convey. Number 5, C5, 5 is the one, that V, yes, thank you. There it says, this conference requests African parliaments to engage support staff and hire consultants and experts where necessary to bridge the gap of inadequate capacity to undertake effective and efficient oversight. Let me propose the following, Mr. Chairman, that African parliaments to invest in capacity building and development of staff personnel and hire consultants and experts where necessary. Because then if you can keep the rest, it's fine there. Because what you want to deal with is the impression that often governments, which we know we've observed this, where they hire experts and then consultants to do the job of officials, bureaucrats in the state. Then because it encourages the state to hire people who are ineffective, who are inefficient, who are unskilled, who don't have qualifications, because then you're going to use consultants to do the job of the person that you should have hired to do the job in the first place. And it encourages ineptitude and this nonchalant behavior that at times we see within some government, within some governments. And I think as Parliament, lastly, Chair, we should also capture what we intimated upon. I think it was quite well captured here during the deliberations by the delegates and the observers, but the question of capacity building of members of Parliament, the ongoing investment in ensuring that the tools of trade, and that was again in this area, that members themselves should be empowered so that they do not, so that we don't see the heavy reliance only on the support staff, where members themselves do not necessarily have the ability to interrogate material that has been presented before them. So that is, I think, in appreciation of what has been raised yesterday, to resolve as this conference that we need to invest in this particular area of expenditure so that there's capacity from within, especially in keeping with the idea where government has, the executive branch, they've got professors, they've got serious experience of drafters who come and present before the committee, but then you find members found wanting because of not the fault of their own, but as presiding officers, as speakers, we should appreciate this area of ongoing development and capacity building. And we need to budget for this as African parliaments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much. As a session chairperson or presiding officer, I now present to the conference that I'll get to you, Honorable Speaker, that the idea of the mover that he proposed for the conference to adopt the presentation or the remark made by the President be adopted. I ask for any further deliberations on that suggestion before we adopt. I see Comrade Speaker.
No, thank you very much, Chairperson and Facilitator. I want to move formally that the remarks of the President be made part of the resolutions that were adopted at this conference as indicated. So I formally move.
Thank you so much. Any secondment to that? Okay, I see a hand.
My name is Ntombi Mekwe, Speaker from the Gauteng province in South Africa.
Yes.
I second the motion.
Thank you so much. The motion is adopted. Can we give ourselves a hands of applause? Just to be systematic, I would like the conference to look at subsection C, Roman 5, where the mover suggested to give some alterations to the sentence where an investment has to be made as part of the capacity building for the staff personnel. Is that in order? If it is in order, I would like this suggestion to be supported first before it is adopted by the House. Remember, if it does not receive support, the standard is that it is not going to be considered.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I support the formulation proposed.
Yes, it has been supported. It will now form part. Okay, I see Houghton.
Thanks, Chair. In as much as the first part is correct, I support that one. If we can add something that will indicate that we should strive for continuous capacity building for staff, so that we don't have to rely more on consultants. So that if there are consultants, they must make it a point that they also leave the skill within our parliaments.
All right, the additional word there is continuous. Yes.
Continuous
in
capacity
principle, it has
building
been
for our
supported.
staff.
There it is. I would like to indicate here that my co-presiding officer here does not have the resolutions with him. So can he get that assistance?
I am saying.
Yes, you are right. You are right. I want you to I want to give you a chance to do that.
Will they give you a copy of it?
That's it. Yes.
She was saying it's already embodied.
Oh, it's already.
It's one of the resolutions. Yes.
Yeah, no, she just added on continuous. All right, thank you so much. I was positively corrected here. Now, on the third suggestion, I am avoiding a confusion in the conference where a suggestion is made and is not attended to. That's why now I'm, following them as they were presented. Let us look at the second part of the resolution, which is B, Roman 3. Now, I would like the mover, Cape Town, South Africa, to make a distinction between what he has suggested in comparison with what the committee has coded.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only addition in what has been captured there would be to budget. Just to add the word budget, that we make provision for this to happen. Otherwise, it may be, it may sound very well, but if you don't budget, then it becomes a challenge. So it has been captured correctly with the addition which I propose the term budget be included. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much. It's now clear. Now we move further. Earlier I saw a hand from, okay, and I still recognize that hand, and that is from, okay, let me not guess wrongly.
Yeah, so, Program Director, actually I was going to refer you to Special Resolutions D, and to say under the relevance of parliamentary immunities, powers and privileges, actually various proposals, positions were made, and I see the provision here as a little scanty based on the conversation that we had earlier. And I think that a particular suggestion that was made from me, Nigeria, was that we should try to develop a common code of ethics in our activities, especially as it relates to our privileges and immunities, against the backdrop of the absence of absolutism in our activities. And that is not reflected here. I think it should be.
The suggestion is coming as an addition to what has been captured.
Yes.
Thank you so much. The secretariats will take care of the additional captive, if there is that word in English. I saw a hand from South Africa.
Yes, no, I wanted to speak, Chairperson, on the African free trade area. If we're not there yet, I can wait. But the point I really wanted to make was that we should further clarify the resolution of African free trade by calling on the CPA in consultation with the African Union and its organs to provide practical guidelines on the implementation of the African free trade area resolution.
Maybe I should bring you back. I'm sorry to intervene. Lead us to the provision within the resolution so that we can follow properly. That is on which page are you?
Chairperson, the African free trade area is the third resolution. We started with Treaty AMA, and then we talked a bit about vaccines, and then we went on to speak about African implementation of African continental free trade area.
Yes.
I think it was an observation made and so on. So what I'm saying is that we should extract that and make it a resolution, like all other resolutions that we have. But emphasize that what should happen, that the CPA should, in consultation with the African Union and its organs, should provide practical guidelines on the implementation of the African free trade area. What I'm saying is that there's a resolution, there's a decision already by the AU. But there's some problem about practicalizing this. So what I'm saying is we need to say, let us as a next step ensure that there's a guide, a practical guide, so that we go on with the question of actual implementation.
Comrade Speaker, it is captured. Any further contributions before we move for the adoption? The official adoption? I see Cameroon. I'm not sure whether that light is for for pleasure or perhaps is an indication that he wants to speak. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. I want to draw you to Section C of the resolutions on retooling Parliament. I appreciate that you mentioned e-procurement and e-taxation, but my view is that we expound on that and we say Parliament should support information technology as a way of improving on our oversight role through, of course, budget allocations and all that. I'll give an example. When I mention technology, an example of a medical system, for example, we call it a national, anyway, I will get the name, but it's an IT system that helps on management of drugs from the point of delivery, point of ordering, and all that. As a member of parliament, it becomes very easy. For example, back in Uganda, we have a government company that supplies all drugs to government hospitals. It distributes, procures, and does all that. But the system of managing that whole system is computerized. And as a member of parliament, when I go back to my constituency, it helps me to understand. It's a matter of clicking or logging into the system. I know when the order was made from the hospital, the government hospital, when the government company delivered the drugs, or if they never actually delivered, without necessarily going through the paperwork, when the order was made, when the procurement was followed, and all that. So to me, instead of talking about e-procurement and e-taxation, we should embrace technology in all our government agencies to make it easier for a member of parliament. I don't have to go to the papers that have been signed, sent here and there, but as long as I log into this central system, I'm able to know how things were done, how procurement was done, how taxes were raised, how deliveries were made, how approvals were made. It's easier. So in my view, we change it to say we embrace information technology instead of restricting ourselves to e-procurement and e-taxation. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much. Well captured, and it will come in the final draft as suggested, just to avoid, limiting ourselves to specific e-system that has been mentioned in this draft that we are trying to look at. Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Chair. On the same point, C Roman 3, for our parliament, we have already passed e-procurement and e-taxation laws. Maybe we can ask the parliament, we have not yet make it. So, and what I would like also to suggest is to emphasize on digitization of our respective parliaments. Thank you.
I'm not sure if I got the Honorable Speaker, but then I believe my co-chair might have captured the point.
No,
okay.
To ask Parliament,
Yes.
who have not yet passed laws on e-taxation and e-procurement to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are some Parliament who have already passed those laws.
Mm-hmm.
For example, our Parliament.
Yes.
And I would like to add, to emphasize on digitalization of our respective Parliament, because it is important, especially in this basing on the lessons learned from this pandemic. So this is very important for this different parliament in order to continue their
in addition
yes.
to learn good practices done by those who have already introduced the system.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Well captured. I now hand over this floor to my presiding officer to facilitate the last part, and that is the part where this document will officially be adopted. Just to ask them to. Thank you so much. It has been returned to me for me to finish the race. I now officially ask members of this very august conference to indicate or to move for the adoption of the resolutions? I see a hand.
Yes, sir. I want to move a motion that we adopt the resolutions with amendments as highlighted.
Well taken. Any secondment to the,
I second the adoption of the amendment of the adoption.
also with amendment?
Amendments, yeah.
Thank you so much. Honorable Speaker, I thought we have gone through that and we are done with that. And it's only that I do not have a hammer. I could have said and that is what I'm even going to say now officially, that honorable speakers and presiding officers, invited guests, and accompanying staff, the resolutions for the 17th conference of the speakers and presiding officers held in Kigali, Rwanda is officially adopted.
Honorable speakers and the presiding officers, distinguished delegates, for the remaining item on the program, I have the distinct honor and the privilege to invite our host, the Right Honorable Donatile Mukabalisa, to come and give some closing remarks. Your Excellency, the Right Honorable, you are most welcome. There was also an indication of inviting this gentleman from Cameroon.
Yes, you have to invite him
Yes,
first.
before he comes.
Yes.
So
That our next host come first here before I close to make some remarks. Thank you very much. Cameroon.
Honorable Lawson Tabot Bakia, MP from Cameroon, please.
You are looking for my problem.
So you are the next one.
Right Honorable Speaker, our able and humble host, Right Honorable Speakers and presiding officers of the Cspoc, members of Parliament, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to extend our profound gratitude to His Excellency Paul Kagame, the President of the Republic of Rwanda, and the peace-loving population of Rwanda. Chairperson of Cspoc and Speaker of the Chamber of Deputies, the President of the Senate, for their warm and cordial reception. Thank you for your hospitality. We will be going back to Cameroon with a very, very positive impression about Rwanda and its inhabitants. I equally enjoy the exchanges and the role every speaker and presiding officer and other contributors made during this wonderful conference of the 17th Cspoc in Kigali. I am particularly impressed, and I must say thank you to all. I want to appreciate the Regional Secretariat for the excellent organization. As the next host of the 18th Cspoc, come 2023, by the grace of God, I'm inviting you all to Cameroon, the land of legendary hospitality, African in miniature. Come and enjoy our cuisine. Come and enjoy, have a taste of our hospitality. We pray and deeply that the good God that has given you all journey mercies to this beautiful country and city of Kigali will take you back safely to your respective countries. I look forward in seeing you. To those who are lovers of football, our doors are open. On behalf of the President of the National Assembly of Cameroon, Right Honorable Kabayege Jibril, and our illustrious Head of State, President Paul Biya, I wish you all a happy stay in Cameroon come 2022 for the AFCON Total Cameroon. Thank you very much.
On that note, I now once again invite the Right Honorable Donatile Mukabalisa to officially close the conference.
Right Honorable Speakers and Presiding Officers, Members of Parliament, accompanying officials, dear participants, good afternoon. Once again, I take this opportunity to sincerely thank you on behalf of the Parliament of Rwanda and on my own behalf for having given the best of yourselves during the last 3 days in order to make the 17th Commonwealth Speakers and Presiding Officers a total success. Right Honorable Speakers and Presiding Officers, Deputy Speakers, Members of Parliament, dear participants, today I would say that we are graduating after a 3-day intensive refresher course covering topics from the role and strategies of presiding officers in a changing society, retooling Parliament for effective and efficient oversight, to the relevance of parliamentary immunities, powers, and privileges. I would not go through everything we learned here, but it has indeed been a tremendous platform for us to make a self-assessment, sharing best practices, and coming up with a common understanding for the way forward. Keeping in mind the overall theme of our conference, Parliament in the 21st century, let us own all the resolutions that resulted from our deliberations and walk the talk. Most of them are easy to implement by simply changing our mindset in order to review our ways of conducting our daily parliamentary businesses, especially in a rapid evolving world. Right Honorable Speakers and Presiding Officers, Deputy Speakers, Members of Parliament, dear participants, first of all, I wish to thank His Excellency Paul Kagame, the President of the Republic of Rwanda, who graced our meeting with his presence. I take this opportunity to give due consideration to all the assignments that he conferred to African parliaments. Let me thank all of you who took your precious time to share your knowledge, by preparing very high-quality presentations, which allowed us to debate and express our own perspectives on the selected themes. Right honorable speakers and members who chaired different thematic sessions, without your wisdom and sense of the leadership, our discussions would have lost track and missed our meeting target. Thank you very much. Thank you to all the accompanying officials and news heroes. I believe your alertness and constant support to your superiors has made their work much easier. I equally thank you, dear participants. Your active and insightful interventions made our work sessions very vivid and productive. To the team that prepared the resolution for us, especially Right Honorable Lucas Sinimbo Muha, Chairperson for the National Council of Namibia, and Honorable Pono Pearson Matodi, Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly of Botswana. Congratulations for the good job done, outlining the most important points that should be our takeaway. To the CPA Regional Secretariat team, led by the Assistant Secretary General, we owe you the smooth coordination of this meeting. Thank you for your hard work. I thank the media. They covered this conference in a professional way. Thank you for the good job. Last but not least, to the Rwandan Parliament Organizing Committee, made of members of Parliament and staff, to Madam Clerk and Deputy Clerk, your sleepless nights, taking care of the nitty and gritty of the meeting, have bore fruits. Thank you and congratulations. Before I conclude, join me to make sure that this is not just another meeting of speakers and presiding officers. Let us put in place appropriate mechanisms to make throughout follow-up on the implementation of the resolution of this meeting. For example, for our next meeting, why don't we be innovative and start by exchanging on the progress in our respective parliament of the implementation of these resolutions. Right honorable speakers and presiding officers, deputy speakers, members of parliament, dear participants, I hope that beyond the formal setup of the meeting, you had a number of opportunities to interact and network, creating new friendship and connections. I hope that you enjoyed your stay in Kigali, and if anything didn't go right, please bear with us as we keep working on getting better every day. I wish you safe trips back to your respective countries, and please kindly extend our warmest greeting to our brothers and sisters, members of parliament of your respective countries. Please consider Rwanda as your #1 holidays destination. We have many exciting tourist places to visit, or any other occasion, you are the most welcome anytime in our beautiful country. Now it is time for me to declare the 70th Commonwealth Speakers and Presiding Officers Conference officially closed. But I would like to invite you all to an excursion tomorrow. We will gather at the Parliament of near in the Parliament compound and depart at 8 in the morning. We'll go in the northern part of the country. Thank you for your kind attention, and may God bless you. Thank you very much.
Distinguished delegates, a few announcements before you leave. For those traveling today or tomorrow, COVID-19 testing is being done, is underway right at this building in room AD9. Your liaison officers will always guide you to where this place is. It is within this building. So for those who are poised to travel today, tomorrow, please. And also lunch is available. Lunch will be served at the usual places where we normally take lunch. And for those who will take part in the excursions, as announced by the Right Honorable Speaker, they are requested to indicate their willingness to do so through the liaisons officer that are attached to every delegation. Thank you so much. No.